A mafia boss is one of the most feared positions in organized crime. He is at the top of the food chain, feared by both his enemies and his own men. But what does it take to become a mafia boss? How much power do they actually have? And can anyone become a mafia boss? Or are you born with it? Well, let's find out. Hi, I'm your host, and this is the channel. Today we're going to be answering the question, what does it take to be a mafia boss? Now, if you want to watch other videos like this one, please subscribe. We bring you new videos every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get into today's video. So let's start off by saying there is no official requirements to be a mafia boss. Every family has their own rules and regulations and way of doing things. Some families are more lenient than others when it comes to allowing outsiders into their organization, while some will only accept people from within their own bloodline. But in general, there are some basic qualities that all mafia bosses share. The first quality that all mafia bosses have in common is that they are extremely intelligent individuals. Being a mafia boss is not an easy job. You are responsible for the actions of your soldiers, and you must always be thinking several steps ahead. You need to be able to outsmart your enemies as well as your own men. If you are not intelligent, then you will not be able to handle the pressure that comes with being a mafia boss. Another quality that all mafia bosses have in common is that they are ruthless. If you are a mafia boss, then you must be willing to do whatever it takes to protect your family. This includes killing people who get in your way. There is no room for mercy in the mafia world. If you are not willing to kill, then you will be killed. The next quality that all mafia bosses have in common is that they are charismatic leaders. The soldiers who work for a mafia boss need to be able to trust him and believe in his vision. Otherwise, they will not be able to work together effectively. A good mafia boss is able to inspire loyalty in his soldiers through his charisma. Another important quality for a mafia boss is to be discreet. You cannot afford to draw attention to yourself. If you do, then your enemies will know what you're replanning before you even have a chance to carry it out. A good mafia boss is always careful about what he says and does. He never gives away information that could jeopardize one of his operations. Now let us take a look at some of the most famous mafia bosses from movies and TV shows. In The Godfather, Don Vito Corleone is widely regarded as one of the greatest mafia bosses of all time. Don Vito was a powerful and respected leader who was feared by his enemies and respected by his own men. He was also very intelligent and was always able to stay one step ahead of the police. Another great mafia boss from the movies is Michael Corleone, Don Vito's youngest son. Michael starts off as a reluctant mafia boss, but eventually becomes just as feared and respected as his father. Michael is a cold-blooded killer who is willing to do whatever it takes to protect his family and their business interests. On television, the best example of a mafia boss is probably Tony Soprano from The Sopranos. Tony is the boss of the Demio crime family and is considered to be one of the most successful mafia bosses of all time. Tony is a complex character who is both ruthless and vulnerable. He is a family man who struggles to balance his criminal activities with his personal life. Now that we've taken a look at some fictional mafia bosses, let's take a look at some real-life mafia bosses. Carlo Gambino was the boss of the Gambino crime family, one of the 5 families that make up the Mafia Commission. Gambino was a very successful mob boss who amassed a huge fortune through his illegal activities. He was known for his violent temper and was not afraid to use extreme measures to achieve his goals. Another famous real-life mafia boss was John Gotti, who was the boss of the Gambino crime family in the 1980s and 90s. Gotti was known for his flamboyant lifestyle and was often seen at expensive restaurants and nightclubs. He was also very media-savvy and was known for giving interviews to reporters. However, Gotti was eventually convicted of racketeering and conspiracy charges and sentenced to life in prison, where he died in 2002. Okay, so now that we've covered what it takes to be a mafia boss, let's answer the question, how much power does a mafia boss really have? Now, the power of a mafia boss depends on a number of factors, including the size and strength of his crime family, as well as his own personal charisma and leadership abilities. Generally speaking, though, a mafia boss has a great deal of power. He is at the top of the food chain in his organization, and his word is law. His soldiers are expected to obey his orders without question, and they know that he has the power to punish them severely if they disobey him. But what about if you were to ask the average Joe how much power they think a mafia boss has? Well, they would probably tell you that a mafia boss has unlimited power. This is because of the way that mafia bosses are portrayed in the media. In movies and TV shows, mafia bosses are almost always shown as being incredibly powerful individuals who can do whatever they want. This is not really the case in real life. While mafia bosses do have a lot of power, they are not all powerful. They still have to worry about the police and the government, as well as other rival crime families. However, there are some cases where mafia bosses have been able to get away with almost anything. For example, there was one case where a mafia boss was able to bribe a judge in order to get a favorable ruling in his favor. Another case involved a mafia boss who was able to get away with murder after he bribed several police officers. These are extreme examples, however, and they are not the norm. In conclusion, a mafia boss is one of the most feared and respected positions in organized crime. To be a mafia boss, you need to be intelligent, ruthless, charismatic, discreet, and a strong leader. Now, in reality, there are no official requirements to be a mafia boss, but these are the qualities that will help you to succeed in the position. How much power does a mafia boss really have? Well, it depends on a number of factors, including the size and strength of his crime family, as well as his own personal charisma and leadership abilities. Generally speaking, though, a mafia boss has a great deal of power. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.